All right, traders, welcome to today's recap. This is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group, and it is Monday, January 13th. So, really nice start to the week in terms of performance. We had SPY, which I could basically highlight up here. It should be highlighted, up 68 basis points. So, very nice performance today. The Q's even better, again, up 1.15%. The small caps also participated today, which was nice. At one point, I believe they went red on the day, but they finished up nicely. So 65 basis points. I want to go over that chart in a second. TLT was a non-factor today. Basically, finished the day down slightly. Same thing with gold, silver, the VIX. At one point, which was a really good question on the day, somebody asked me. They said, "What does it mean? Is it a divergence when you see the VIX up and stocks are also up?" I would say yes, but I would watch the magnitude of the move. So, like if the happens to get like pummeled the day before and is down 10% and bounces back and is like up 1%, I'm not sure I would really classify that as a divergence. If it was up like 5% on the day and stocks were up, then I would say yes, that's kind of a cause for an issue. Notice it did finish in the red. But for most of the day, for some of the day, the VIX was higher. The other thing that I noticed is look at the VXN, which is the VIX for the Qs, and RVX. If you ever want to track volatility for IWM, that was also down 9% on the day. But a great question in the room, and it's all about learning and you know figuring out if you're seeing something that's a little bit different in the market that is giving you some type of a sign. So performance for today, a lot. Well, look at that. Materials actually snuck in there to finish for the day up 1.3% for the day. The pot stocks, the marijuana stocks were really hot today. Steel names also did very well. The China internets, which opened strong and kind of stayed there all day long, which was nice. They finished up close to 3% for the day. And you could see good, really good breadth, right? All these names, breadth throughout the session, I should say. Again, I'm sorting this by percentage change from the open, but I think overall pretty good. Interesting how this works. Basically, one day can kind of change things around a little bit. Sometimes, like for example, I think Friday, watching the price action on Friday was kind of dismal. One of the things that I said, well, I kind of gave it a little bit of a discount. Friday's price action. I said, well, it's Friday. Friday's price actions, sometimes they're not great. And I think that actually proved true. The other thing was I wasn't finding a lot of setups this weekend. And sometimes it just takes a day. It really does. Sometimes you're just not finding them that day. You stick with it, and one day is not a trend. Even with the market up, same thing. It's not a trend. So, just be patient. The one thing I think I said in Friday's video, I said, well, the S&P did not. Wow, look at the close, by the way. The S&P, even though like yesterday was an ugly day, I've learned to use like a couple things that really help me on my charts. Again, you should always have the things that are on your charts. What's going on here with Thinkorswim? The things that are on your charts, they should be on your charts for a reason. Like if they're not helping you or if they don't provide you some type of a signal, then take them off. But for example, the 5-day moving average. So even though this was a nasty day, kind of looked like a nasty day, right? We opened on the highs. We didn't lose any of the moving averages. We didn't lose, we didn't fall into value. There was no sell signal. Keep in mind with candlestick charting, some people think sometimes that they see a reversal bar, but if you don't lose, especially that five-day moving average, which really has done a great job at, like for me, helping me follow the trend, it's still, it's fine for the day. So I think we hit upon that. On Friday, we also hit upon that in the weekend video. So again, real nice day. Here's what my blotter looked like for the day. Again, I always show, full transparency in the room. I got into some JD in the morning. It was just a name that I wasn't in. We saw some pretty heavy call buying in the first hour. I did dump that trade at the end of the day. So if you're wondering, because I didn't provide any real explanation on private Twitter. I did in the room a little bit because I got some questions. They're like, "Hey, why are you dumping JD.com? It looks okay." Because I have enough exposure in China, right? That is a China internet name. I'm also long KWeb. I'm long that in two different portfolios. I'm long that in my short-term trading account. I'm also long that in the tactical portfolio. I'm long EEM in the tactical portfolio. I still have a little bit of IQ on, just a few IQ calls. I'm long just a tiny bit of PDD as well, which you can see I took two targets in that name today. So there's two things I wanted to talk about in today's video, other than some of the trades and the price action. Was one, just because you like a group, be mindful of how much exposure you have in it. Now, you could do whatever you, of course, right? This video is for information purposes only. I'm not giving out any advice or anything like that. But just be cognizant. This has happened to some people in software, right? When software is going up like it has been over the last week, it's great. But software sometimes is the first thing to get hit. So if you've got 5 or 6 positions on in that group and it gets hit hard, you're going to have a tough day. So now, as long as you're prepared for that, that's fine. And if you've got like some hedge on or something, or if you're just good with that exposure, then that's fine. Same things with the Chinese internet names and emerging markets. I've been saying now for a couple of days. I'm like, hey, I even said, I think either on Thursday or Friday in the trading room, I said I think I've got all on, enough on in emerging markets and China names. So today, guys, saw JD calls. They were going pretty aggressively in the first hour of the day, and I just said, hey, you know what? This thing is JD's kind of stretched, and I don't sometimes just ignore this order. This one's tied. This one's also a cross. But you could see down here, right off the open, they were buying JD calls. So this was nice, for I kind of used the momentum for a day trade. Because I think JD's a little bit stretched. Now what? Now things have been getting stretched and they continue to go higher. So, that's just me. I just felt like, hey, I made a little bit of money in it. There's nice volume in it. Could it go higher? Absolutely. But I've got enough of other plays on. This is JD. It has not, gotten close yet to taking, to getting back to the highs. So, it all depends on your exposure and what you're comfortable with. What else did I do today? Again, I took off some things that were on the open. PayPal, Win. There was my first target in JD. Even Newmont, I was able to get out of some of that for profits from Friday. I thought that was a nice setup that we went over. And there were Bristol Myers, hit another target in that one. I think that was right around the highs of the day. All the lithium stocks were pretty hot. I actually did not get a chance to research why they were. I don't know if it was just on the back of, clearly Tesla's hot. And believe it or not, like Tesla's in the lithium ETF, but this is ALB, finished on the highs of the day. So that's been a name that I've been involved in for about the last 2 weeks. I've owned stock in the name. You haven't heard me talk about it too much because I don't own options in it. I own stock. And you can kind of, as long as you set your stop, you can be in some of these names for a while. But Nvidia, I sold. I've had this on for a day trade. I sold it a little bit too early. I just had enough things going on for the day. I made some money in this NBEV today. This was kind of I got into some calls. I don't even know why I bought calls because it's a $2 stock. I didn't realize it right away. I just wanted to be quick. I saw a rumor on the tape. GE. A lot of calls in the February. They report earnings, I think, on the 29th, so I won't be in this for that. I won't be in the options that long. I still have that name in the tactical portfolio. CRC also saw some calls. Duncan was one of the setups that we went over in the weekend video. I think this thing can push to that VPOC up at 80.40. So I kept that on. I did not force a target in that today, which I could have. So let me just talk about a couple other things here because, again, good market breadth. There were some things that were down a little bit. Gold miners as a group. The biotechs, I'm not really sure why the biotechs cannot get going. I think from some commentary in the room, a couple of people mentioned that they were expecting some deals out of this conference, and they group didn't really get any. So the group, because it was expecting that, sold off. I don't know if I completely buy into that, but it is what it is. I was hoping, and I put on a long IBB trade. I put in the IBB ETF in the tactical portfolio, and I could have taken a target here because I put it on right in here. I'm basically back to flat in this name, but I wanted to see this thing make a higher high. And it looks like for now it made a lower high. So one day is not a trend, but it was not able to get through value. It's still kind of, as you can see, as the market webs will say here, which I don't know why they don't say this right now, but it should be kind of trendless right now. We're in value, so it's not a sell signal yet. But pretty close to it. Notice how the price kept value. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about really quickly. So again, real nice trading day. Overall, again, I'm very pleased with how everything is going, and continue to kind of build my account through the performance that we're getting and so forth. Also, the tactical portfolio, which is doing really well. You could see how this looks. This is, by the way, completely transparent. Like there's a link that I post in the room, and if you decide to actually model the portfolio, you can, because I give you the link for the portfolio and how to find it. As long as you have an account open, you can see it in Motif. But I'm just really excited that since I started this back in August, the portfolio kind of got off to a little bit of a bad start. Because I was in a little bit more growth names and value outperformed, so I had to switch around a couple times. But you can see the performance is basically back to the S&P, which I'm very pleased to say, and that's our 1 month return. Return now since creation, which again is very similar to S&P. So I basically have caught up to it. So again, very excited about that development because I've been working hard on that portfolio and rebalancing it about once every week. Just shuffling in a couple names, 2 or 3 names, shuffling out a couple names. Like I think the last change that we made, we added PayPal to this, which we hit pretty nicely. Coupa Software was a new name too that we put into the portfolio as it broke out. So again, very nice. So a couple other things, right? There's a lot of momentum that's going on in this market. The way that I explain this in the room, now this all depends on your style. If you're very neutral and you could trade any name, based on what the chart is doing, sometimes pure technical analysis can cover up the symbol and just basically trade off of the chart. I can't do that as well. I do very much trade technicals, but I really have to believe in the names. And I'll tell you why. I'll explain why. I was trying to explain this at the end of the day. But we're seeing obviously the pot stocks go, right? We're seeing Beyond Meat go. We're seeing, it kind of, I don't want to say, because I think it's wrong to say what I'm going to say, which is kind of like bottom of the barrel names that we're seeing some call buying in, like LB was up 4.2%. These are names. Some of these areas are in really heavy downtrends, but are trying to bottom a little bit. So I'll tell you, I did not really trade any of the pot stocks today because I have to believe in the name. Like I have to really like it, and I don't have anything against the pot stocks, but let me give you an example. If you're day trading, then it's fine, right? You don't necessarily have to hold the risk overnight. But in my opinion, you really have to like these names because sometimes you have to manage a loser a little bit to get it back to a winner. And you have to believe in the name or in the group. And if I don't have that conviction, then what happens if the name, if it happens to get like a downgrade on the open and the name starts down 2 or 3%, I don't have the conviction to stay in something that I don't believe in, right? So you really I've learned this over time. Everybody's different, by the way. Like I said, some people can cover up the symbol, and they can basically do their own thing. I need to really believe in the idea to stay in a swing trade. And again, helping putting stops and having your targets laid out and so forth can help you thick or thin. But some like so for if I was in like one of these names that I just don't have conviction in, and I see it open down 2 or 3%, I don't have conviction to add to it, right? So that's how my trading is, and that's how I've learned to kind of limit my trading a little bit, so I'm not in every area of the market. Sometimes that it works for some of you to kind of be in different areas, but someone asked me about LB the other day. Sorry, at the end of the day, I just have no reason. Now it's got momentum to it; it could continue to move higher, but I need something else than a call buyer. I've got to like the company, right? So, for example, like limited brands, I just don't have a reason to own limited brands other than there's short-term momentum. Now, you take another retailer like Lulu, something like this where I know, like I have, a couple things from Lulu. Maybe I'm a little embarrassed to admit it, but the stuff is really high quality. Like they make really nice shorts. They make really nice shirts as well. And if you've been to a Lulu store, like it's nice stuff. So I think like that's the difference for me, right? Like I recognize that they're doing something different in their business segment. Same thing with Costco. Um, it's just a different feel to it. Like at the end of the day, if Costco goes down because somebody downgraded, like I have faith in like as long as it's above support and maybe resting against support, I have faith to go in and buy the dip in Costco. If I get into LB and the stock opens up down 3%, I'm not going to add to it because I don't particularly like the company. So anyway, I wanted to go over that and just as we're seeing, the reason why I'm going over this is I think we're really starting to see some of the names that are in big downtrends catch some momentum to them, and I just don't like unless it's something that I really believe in. I may play it quickly as a day trade, but for a swing trade, you just won't see me, traffic in many of these things, regardless if there was call activity in the name. That's just something that again, I'm saying the same thing over, but you have to kind of believe in your system and have conviction in it. Right, so I'm okay like missing a rally 4% or in a pot stock, because those names like I think the pot stocks anybody can grow weed, if it gets legal in the state. So that's my opinion on that stuff. But I wanted to see, to give you an example of that, and hopefully you can apply that to your system. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, so I know what works for me, and I know what doesn't work for me, and I know what areas I can have conviction in, and what areas I dump as soon as I see a little bit of red on the tape. All right, guys. So that's it for today's recap. Overall, real nice day. We get a couple names that report earnings tomorrow. Some of the banks. I did not play any of those for earnings yet. A lot of these banks, like if we look at like J.P. Morgan, for example, and we could look at a couple of these really quickly. Whoops, looks like I'm not typing. You could see, well, it does have some decent history to it, but we're talking about a 1% move. We have one quarter in there for 4.6%, but you could see there's just not a lot of movement, in regards if you're looking to play options in these names. So, like Citigroup, for example, you could see the typical move is like 1% in the name. All right, guys. So there'll be some more earnings names that we'll look at, but I would say not yet for me in terms of some of the names that are reporting tomorrow. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow.